Hi everyone, welcome to another Tech Nerd tutorial. Today, on the request of one of our loyal viewers, we are going to be installing Invoice Ninja on an Ubuntu desktop server. So here we are on invoiceninja.com's site. And here we immediately see that you can create an account and you can try out Invoice Ninja because it first offers it as SaaS, software as a service. We do get to see all the different options and features that this particular service provides. Then it'll go into things like pricing and how you can go about signing up for the software as a service. However, because Invoice Ninja is open source, it does give us the option to also self-host this particular invoice software. So at the very bottom of the page, we can click on GitHub, and from there we'll receive information on how to self-host Invoice Ninja. So once again, with GitHub, we immediately see the files that are readily available, and below that is when we begin seeing the information and installation instructions. Now, I did find that these particular instructions did assume that you had PHP 5 MySQL LAMP server with all the different mods enabled, so it doesn't give too much instructions on all the additional dependencies. So we are going to have to add those into the instructions that are given on their page. So here we're at the steps to set up from GitHub, and we can now open up Terminal and get started on installing Invoice Ninja on a self-hosted server. We're going to start by installing Tasksall. So this will allow us to install server components such as the LAMP stack for us to have a working web server on our Ubuntu system. So once we've installed that, we do want to run sudo tasksall, and it'll give us a page where we'll be able to choose with the arrow keys the LAMP server, hit spacebar, and then hit enter to run this particular installation. Tasksall will then go ahead and install all the components. We will ask for a password for the MySQL database, which we will then confirm. Then it'll go ahead and continue installing the rest of the packages to have a working web server. Once the web server is all done and installed, there are a few additional dependencies and packages that we want to install. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. We're going to do it all in one single installation so that it's easier to do. So that's going to be the sudo apt-get install. We need to do some PHP 5 mods, so PHP 5 GD library, the curl library, as well as the mcrypt library. And then from there, we also need to install git and curl. So once we've installed all of those, then we will be good to go to begin pulling the files from Invoice Ninja. So now that all that is installed, we can now go and enable our PHP 5 mod, the mcrypt. That's the only one that we need to enable. And then from there, we're now good to go. We can come back to the web page. And the first thing we want to do is we want to copy the first line to clone the GitHub repository of the files. So I've copied. I'm going to now go ahead and paste that. And now it's going to clone the contents of the GitHub repository into the folder Ninja. So we're going to wait for that to finish downloading. And once that's done downloading, then we also need some additional frameworks before we can get this up and running. The next framework that we want to install is called Composer. For us to get there, we can go onto the GitHub page of Invoice Ninja. We do need to scroll down to the Ubuntu notes. We already did the PHP MyCrypt, so we can go ahead and copy the line under Install Composer. So we'll first copy the first line, go back to our terminal and paste that in. And this will pull the Composer application from its web page. And once that is fully installed, then we can also go ahead and then move that so that it is part of the commands of our Ubuntu server. So it has now been properly downloaded. We're going to now copy the second line for Composer, and that'll just move the Composer file to its appropriate location on our Ubuntu server. There are some additional packages like Bower that we're not installing, but if you did want to change things like the way that Invoice Ninja looks, you would have to install those additional dependencies. We're going to scroll all the way back up so that we can get to the next bit of our installation. It does want us to go into CD to go into the Ninja folder, but we're first going to move it to our web server. So you're going to see on the screen that we're going to move our Ninja folder to our Apache web server location. So that will be the var and ww. Then we'll go ahead and move our current location to that location. And then from there, now we'll go ahead and install with Composer. Now, because we are no longer in our own home folder, we do need to install with administrative rights. So we'll go ahead and first type sudo, and then we will paste in the command composer install. Then we'll go ahead and let that run. We're going to see some yellow lines saying that it also failed to download some of the packages. We're not going to worry about that for now. We're just going to get through the first initial installation through Composer. So this has been sped up. It does normally take a little bit longer, and it will stop halfway as you see now, and you will have to input GitHub username and password, which you can sign up for free, just because it does max out on the regular allotment of non-signed in users. So I sign in, and then it'll continue to go ahead and download the rest of the files. So for sure you do need to create a free account at GitHub so that you can continue with the Composer install. Now that that's all done, the other thing that I found is that we do want to also update Composer because it doesn't have all the most updated dependencies. So when we update it, it will then pull from its repositories what it needs to be fully updated. So we're going to see that right now. And once it is done updating, I did do another Composer install for it to install the correct updates onto Invoice Ninja. So I don't know if you could have just first updated and installed. I didn't try it in that order, but it is possible. But since I know that this order works, I just kept it in this particular order. But feel free to experiment if necessary. So this now is almost finished for us to do, and then the final things that we would have to do would be to have the web address of it readily available, and then we can do the web install. So here we're now going to do the install for sudo composer install, and it's going for the second time of installing all the updated dependencies, and now Invoice Ninja is installed onto our Ubuntu server. The next thing that we want to do is we want to create our database. So you're going to see inputting in the password that we created in Tasksall for our MySQL database. And in there, the only things that we have to do is create the database as well as the user information. We can just copy and paste that from the installation instruction page provided from Invoice Ninja. So you see me highlight each individual line and paste them into the MySQL. I should always get a query OK to let me know that I've copied and pasted correctly. I would suggest that for things like this line that is being pasted, you will want to consider changing the user Ninja and the password Ninja, just because of the fact that if you're using the defaults, then it's less secure. And since we are dealing with invoicing, we definitely want to lock this down as much as possible. So you do have the option to change the username and the password on that second line. So please make sure that you do that if you are concerned about your security. Once we're done that, we can go ahead and type exit, and that will exit us from our MySQL. The final thing that we have to do is we have to grant permissions to the required folder, as well as tell Apache which folder is required for our web server, and then after that we'll be good to go for launching our Invoice Ninja. So here you see me inputting in the commands for us to edit the Apache site default sites configuration. So you'll see that in sites available, what I'm looking for is the default, which is 000-default.conf. And in here, what I'm going to be looking for is that when I scroll down, I am looking for the document root. I want to change the document root to the var/www/ninja/public. And in there, I also want to add a rewrite or redirect for Apache. So you'll see me creating a directory for the same document root, so var www ninja public in this directory. And what I want to do is I want to allow rewriting. So we have allow override, and we're setting it to all. And then we can go ahead and close this directory. If we don't do this, then our Apache web server is not going to direct us to the correct locations. From there, we're just going to double check that our rewrite mod is enabled. So we're going to go ahead and type sudo a2nmod rewrite. And it might already be enabled, and that's completely fine. But we just want to do it just to make sure that we don't miss any of the modifications that we need for this to run. And here we see that it says that's going to be activated on the next restart. So we're going to go ahead and restart Apache right now. Now that that's all done, what we can do is we want to now have Invoice Ninja be our production environment. So we are going to have to copy one of their default PHP files and rename it so that it is now activating its production environment. So from there, we're going to type in our sudo, we're going to copy, and we want to make sure that we are in the Invoice Ninja folder. So while we're there, then we can now go ahead and go sudo cp, and then in the bootstrap and environment.default.php, we want to copy that so that it is now bootstrap /environment.php. So it's not just default anymore, it's actually the active production PHP environment. Now the final thing that we have to do once we have run this production of Invoice Ninja is to first go up one level of our directory so that we can now make the Invoice Ninja folder change the owner to the LAMP web server. So here you see that we are using chown to change the owner to www-data so that it is now accessible by our Apache web server. So from there, we've now finished everything that we need to do with the back end of setting up Invoice Ninja. We can now go to our web browser and from there, go to our web page. Once again, if you don't have a dynamic DNS web address, you can always check out the video that you see on your screen to go learn how to do that. Or if you plan on just having a local installation, you don't need it. You really just need an IP address. Now that we're here, we can see that it does give us information if we haven't set up a MySQL database to do that. Then ask for the URL, and then from here, our database connection, we use the default, so we just need to hit test. But if you changed it, you do need to change your username, password, or database. And then from there, we get to our email settings where you can put in your SMTP settings for you to send out emails. And then finally to our user details, you can put in your first, last name, email, and password for the first administrative user of Invoice Ninja. You also do need to agree to Invoice Ninja's terms of services. And then from there, when you hit submit, it will do its installation so that now it's fully ready for us to now go into Invoice Ninja. So we're going to go ahead and hit submit. It is going to go ahead and load. It does take a little bit the first time, but then once it's done, you go ahead, put in your email and password, and then we go ahead and log in. And from there, now we have our Invoice Ninja ready to go. From here, we can then continue to set it up and be able to then create invoices that we can then send out to our clients. Hi everyone, thanks again for watching this video. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And go ahead and leave a comment down below if you have any additional questions or comments. Furthermore, check out some of our related videos or find us in our social media. If you would like email notifications of whenever we release new video or written tutorials, you can go to our webpage technerdservices.com and sign up for our weekly newsletter. We will send to your inbox notifications of those new video and tutorials. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, keep teching on.